The stars above the planet Gorlan 3 blinked gently. It was a quiet colony, peaceful, small, and far from any war zone. The people here lived simple lives. Farmers worked the land. Children played in dusty streets. Traders came once a week. No one expected anything dangerous. But in the old communication tower on the edge of the colony, one bored technician was playing with things he didn't fully understand. His name was Tarn. He was young, tired, and annoyed with his shift. He sat alone at a dusty console, yawning as static buzzed on the screen. Most of the time, no messages ever came in or went out. He had one job: monitor the transmission logs. Nothing more. He tapped a few buttons, just for fun. He liked watching the blinking lights. But today, something changed. A box on the screen turned green. A file popped up. Unknown root experimental code. Tarn blinked. What's this? It was marked as an old test program, probably used years ago during the system's first build. He hovered his hand over the execute button, thinking it wouldn't do anything. It's just a ghost signal. No harm. He pressed it. The console beeped once. Then again, a red bar started filling. Transmitting. Transmitting. Transmission complete. Tarn froze. Wait, what? Another message appeared below. Destination confirmed. Signal received by Sector D-17 Deathworld. His heart dropped. Everyone on Gorlan 3 had heard of Sector D-17. It was not part of the trade network. It was not part of the council. It was a black zone. Some called it the Forbidden Sector. Others called it by a darker name, the home of the Deathworlders. Tarn jumped to his feet. He tried to cancel the message, but it was too late. The logs had locked. The transmission had gone out. He looked around, alone. He grabbed a datapad and ran from the tower. High above the colony, in the orbiting defense station, alarms started to buzz. A senior officer looked at the screen. Incoming trace ping. Not from a known origin. Who sent this? No one here, sir, said the junior. But the signal. It reached the Deathworld sector. The officer's face turned pale. Shut it down. Now. We can't. It's already answered. Back in the city, people began to notice strange things. The wind changed. The skies darkened. Clouds formed unnaturally fast. Children stopped playing. Tarn ran to the local admin center and burst in. I made a mistake. I sent something. It wasn't on purpose. The governor, a tall, gray-skinned elder, turned slowly. What did you send? I don't know. Tarn shouted. It was just a test signal, but it reached humans. The room went silent. The governor whispered, You reached the Terrans? Tarn nodded. Yes. A low alarm began to sound. It wasn't loud, but deep like a drum in the sky. The city shook. In the sky, a strange ripple appeared like space itself tearing open. And then, a shadow came. Massive, that unnatural dot. A ship, blacker than night, cropped from the stars. No lights, no markings, no sound. It hovered silently above the colony. Its size blocked out the sun. One by one, more ships appeared behind it. 5, 10, 20. The people stared in horror. Someone whispered, Are we under attack? No one answered. Tarn, now on his knees, looked up in silence. His hands shook. His mind raced. One wrong message. One stupid mistake. And now, the Deathworlders were here. Asterisk, the sky was no longer blue. It was covered by shadows. Giant human warships floated above Gorlan 3 like mountains made of metal. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They just hovered in silence. The people of the colony stared up in fear. Farmers dropped their tools. Traders ran into buildings. Children cried and held their parents. Even the guards, trained for war, stood frozen. Inside the governor's tower, Old Governor Rill watched the fleet through a glass window. His hands shook slightly. No messages, no warnings. Nothing, he said quietly. Beside him, Tarn stood pale and silent. He had told them everything. He had told them about the signal. The governor had not yelled at him. He hadn't needed to. Outside, the streets emptied. No ships moved. No weapons fired. The silence was louder than war. Then, without a sound, one small ship separated from the massive fleet. It moved slowly and calmly, descending like a bird falling from the sky. It landed just outside the city's center, near the old landing pad. The governor quickly activated the city speakers. All citizens, stay indoors. Do not move. All guards, stand down. The colony held its breath. A ramp lowered from the human ship. From the smoke and light, one figure stepped forward. He was tall, wearing dark armor with no symbols. His helmet reflected the fire of the engines. His walk was silent and slow, each step firm, like he didn't fear anything. He stopped at the edge of the landing pad and looked around. The guards, hidden behind walls and towers, aimed their weapons, but no one dared fire. Then the man lifted his hand. A device on his wrist glowed. A signal was sent. At the same moment, all the colony's screens and comm devices turned on. The same message played everywhere, in every building, every room, every ear. We received your signal. Your coordinates were confirmed. We have come. In the control room, Governor Rill turned to Tarn. Is this because of you? Tarn whispered. I didn't ask them to come. It was just a test signal. The governor stared. Well, they took it as something more. Outside, the armored human finally removed his helmet. His face was calm. His eyes were cold, focused like a soldier who had seen too much war. He looked up at the watching guards, and then he smiled. Not kindly. It was a quiet, deadly smile. Suddenly, the ground rumbled. The rest of the human ships slowly began to move. They formed patterns in the sky, orbiting, blocking escape routes. Positioning with perfect timing, some of the colony's military ships tried to lift off, but the humans jammed their systems. The airwaves buzzed. Static. Silence. Blocked. And another message was broadcasted from the human fleet, requesting planetary access. Your distress call was received. Assistance will be delivered. Governor Rill narrowed his eyes. Distress call? We never sent one. Tarn's voice was soft. They think we asked for help. And when humans help, the governor muttered, they don't ask for permission. At the landing pad, the human opened a metal case. From it, he pulled a small black cube and placed it on the ground. A blue light spread in a circle, scanning the area. It projected a hologram showing colony maps, buildings, and defense grids. He was mapping the colony. Then he spoke, loud and clear. We will begin securing key structures. This is protocol. Please remain calm. No one replied. The human turned and walked toward the city center. The guards didn't stop him. The people watched through windows, terrified. It was the beginning of something no one wanted, and the worst part? They had invited it themselves, without knowing. Back in the tower, the governor gave one order. Send a message to the High Council. The aide responded. Communications are blocked. Governor Rill stared at the black sky. Then light the fire beacons. All of them. Tarn asked in a shaking voice, What happens now? The governor replied slowly, Now, we find out what happens when you call the humans by mistake. The streets of Golden 3 were quiet. Too quiet. Shops were closed. Doors were locked. Families stayed hidden inside their homes, holding each other close. The entire colony watched through windows and screens as the human moved through the city alone. Silent and unstoppable. He didn't run. He didn't look scared. He walked like he owned the place. Behind him, The small black cube hovered, scanning and recording everything. Outside the main command center, a group of alien guards stood in full armor. Their hands shook slightly, but they didn't move. They had orders not to engage. Unless attacked first, the humans stepped right up to them, calm and emotionless. One of the guards finally spoke. "This is a protected building. You cannot." Before he could finish, the human raised his hand. The cube projected a hologram. It showed this building, flashing red. "Strategic command facility. Must be secured." The guards looked at each other. The human leaned closer. His voice was low and cold. "Your signal asked for help. This is how we help." And then, without any more words, he walked straight inside. Inside the command room, Governor Rill stared at a large screen. It showed the human walking through the corridors of the government center, completely unhindered. "I can't stop him," he whispered. Tarn stood beside him. "Why are they here?" "We didn't send a real call for help." The governor's eyes narrowed. "Because Deathworlders don't care what you meant. They care what you did." In the sky, more Terran ships arrived. One by one, they entered orbit in perfect formation. The pattern looked like a cage cutting off all escape routes from the planet. One ship descended and dropped metallic structures around the edges of the city. Autonomous turrets. Defensive towers, portable shields. They were fortifying Go RL on -3. If it now belonged to them. In the city, the human still unnamed walked into the central data hall. He didn't ask. He didn't wait. He inserted a silver chip into the main computer. Blue lights spread across the walls. The system activated on its own. Alien engineers watching from the shadows gasped. "He's unlocking everything." He turned to them and simply said, "We are now connected." Back in the tower, a young officer shouted, "Governor, look!" On the screen, a fleet of large colony ships, human ships, were slowly heading toward the planet. Civilian vessels, carriers, even terraforming units. "They're not just visiting," the officer said. "They're planning to stay." "Governor." Rill stood still, his hands clenched. "We didn't invite them. We didn't want this," Tarn whispered. "But now they're here." The governor turned to Tarn. "And they'll never leave." Later that day, the human sent one more transmission to the entire colony. Every screen, every speaker, every device played his message. "We are here because you reached out. Whether by choice or chance, we heard your voice. You will be protected. You will be improved. You will be part of the Terran expansion." The message ended with the Terran emblem, a black planet surrounded by fire. That night, the stars above Gorlan 3 were hidden by ships that the people no longer felt like they were on their own world. They felt like guests. No, not guests. Subjects. The Deathworlders had made their decision. And now, there was no turning back. The city's heart no longer beat with the sound of life. It pulsed with machines. Human machines. In every street, on every roof, and across every sector of Gorlan 3. Terran drones hovered silently, watching. They didn't make noise. They didn't speak. But they saw everything. People whispered to each other behind closed doors. What do they want? Why are they still here? Who really sent that message? Governor Rill sat alone in the dark briefing hall, staring at holograms of the growing human presence. The entire colony's control systems were now linked to Terran code. His authority meant nothing. Tarn stood at the door, waiting quietly. He hadn't spoken since the first day. The governor finally turned. "You said it was an accident." Tarn nodded. "It was." Rill leaned forward. "But what if it wasn't?" At the same time, deep beneath the colony's surface, in a hidden data room, a group of alien engineers had uncovered a backup log. It was the message. The one Tarn sent, A plated back dot, it wasn't just a signal dot. It contained an old Terran code, a forgotten one, meant only for emergencies. The signal wasn't asking for help dot, it was activating something. That night, in the outer district, a strange event took place. A tall human soldier entered a storage bay without permission. Inside, he found something, a crate that didn't belong to the colony. He opened it. Inside was an old Terran beacon covered in dust. Long hidden beneath false labels dot, the soldier tapped his wrist communicator. "We found the trigger." Another voice replied, "Prepare full planetary integration." Meanwhile, Tarn sat outside alone, watching the sky. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. A soft voice spoke beside him. "You are not the first to touch that signal." He turned dot. It was a human woman, wearing no armor. Her eyes were dark, but not cruel. She sat beside him on the steps. "What do you mean?" he asked dot. She looked up at the stars. "Your colony was built on top of old Earth tech. You just didn't know." Tarn froze. "You think you called us," she said gently. "But in truth, we were always listening, waiting. The system was built to wake us," Tarn whispered. "So, it wasn't really my fault?" She turned to him, smiling faintly. "You were just the spark." Back in the governor's tower, an emergency meeting began. "They're building towers around the planet," one officer said. "Not for defense, these are command towers. Planetary control systems." Another added, "They're moving settlers, civilians, human families, as if this is already their world." Rill asked, "Have we heard from the Galactic Council?" "Still? No signal. The humans have jammed long-range comms." The room went silent dot suddenly. A new transmission appeared on their private screen. Not from space, but from inside the colony dot. It was from the Terran commander himself. "You asked for assistance. We responded. But assistance is not temporary. You are now under Terran protection. This world is being prepared for permanent Terran settlement." One officer shouted, "This is invasion." But the message continued. There was no invasion. There was only an answer. "You called. We came." The screen faded to black dot in the distance. The first human city module began to unfold, metal walls expanding, towers rising. It was happening fast. Go RL on -3. Wasn't dying. It was being rebuilt as a Terran world. TARN stood at the edge of the colony and looked out at the glowing machines. He now understood. The message was never meant to be stopped. It was ancient. It was buried. And now it had been answered. Asterisk, the night sky over Gorlan 3. Burned orange. Not from the sun, but from fire. Flames danced in the far distance, out past the city limits, where one of the colony's outer watchposts had stood for years. Now it was nothing but twisted metal and smoke. The human war fleet had finally moved. It started with a single warning. Governor Rill had demanded answers. He sent a message to the Terran command post. "Withdraw your forces, or we will consider this an occupation." The humans didn't answer with words. They answered with precision strikes. First, all satellite control centers were hit. Then, the defense towers went dark. And finally, the outer wall melted down by an energy beam from orbit. No casualties. No chaos. Just clean destruction. The humans hadn't come to argue. They came to take control. In the control tower, alarm screamed. Tarn rushed in, breathless. "They're disabling everything. Our scanners, weapons, nothing works." "Governor." Rill stared at the main screen, jaw tight. "They're not defending themselves anymore. This is a message." Tarn nodded. "They're saying, we own this place now." Far above, human ships moved with silent grace. No noise, no wild lights. Just cold, exact action. Drones swept the skies, neutralizing every sensor array in minutes. Walker's giant armored machines marched through the outer districts. They didn't fire. They didn't threaten. They just moved forward, claiming space. People ran, not from violence, but from the silence that followed it. In the shadows of the old marketplace, a young alien girl, barely 12, watched as Terran engineers set up tall machines that reached into the sky. She whispered to her brother, "Are they going to destroy everything?" Her brother didn't answer. He just pulled her close. The machines began humming. Glowing dome formed in the air energy field generators, locking down another zone. In the Capitol Plaza. The Terran commander finally spoke again. Not through screens, but in person. He walked into the city square alone, unarmed, surrounded by no guards. Just him. Crowds gathered at a distance, watching, waiting. The commander looked around, then spoke calmly. "No one has died. No bombs have fallen on your homes. No soldier has harmed your people. And yet, you call this invasion." He raised his hand and pointed to the sky. "You signaled us. You woke us. This colony triggered Earth's ancient beacon system. And when Earth is called, Earth answers. With fire, if necessary." Back in the governor's tower, one of the junior officers asked, "Should we attack?" Rill shook his head slowly. "No. Why not?" He replied, voice low, "Because if we strike them, they won't just take the planet." Tarn whispered, "They'll erase it." Moments later, the governor's private screen blinked. A message had been sent from orbit. It was not from the commander, that it was from Earth itself. Text only. One line. "Planet Gorlan 3 is now under Terran authority. Further resistance will result in full planetary reset." Everyone stared at the screen. One word repeated in their minds. Reset. No one asked what it meant. They already knew. Asterisk. Out in the colony streets, more human structures rose. Their machines worked day and night. No rest. No complaint. They built cities in hours. Tarn stood on a rooftop, watching everything. A small drone flew near him. It scanned his face, beeped, then dropped a card at his feet. He picked it up. It read, "Your ID has been updated. Welcome, citizen of Earth." Asterisk. Tarn looked up at the endless sky. The stars were still there, but now they shined behind Terran steel. And Earth's message was clear. "We don't wait for invitations. One signal is enough. One mistake is permission. And when we come, we stay." Asterisk. The wind on Gorlan 3 changed. It wasn't natural wind. It was the push of power giant Terran engines churning the air, reshaping the skies above the colony. The old world was being erased. And a new one, a Terran world, was being built in its place. The local resistance didn't plan for war. They were scientists, workers, builders. But now, in underground chambers and hidden rooms, they whispered to each other by candlelight, "They've taken the skies. They've locked our data. We are no longer a colony. We are a base." Governor Rill stood in front of a small group of city leaders. His voice was heavy. "They say we sent the signal," he said. "They say this is their right, but we never asked for them." One engineer spoke up. "Does that matter now? They've already decided?" Rill looked at Tarn. Tarn stayed quiet. He had nothing left to say. He had started this accidentally or not. In the streets, the mood shifted. At first, people stayed hidden. Now, they started to obey. Lines formed near Terran supply stations. Food was delivered clean, packaged, efficient. Medbots treated injuries. Terran speakers played peaceful tones to the city squares. It all felt calm, but the calm was like a blade held just inches away. A strange thing happened next. One of the colony's general's commander, Jal, disobeyed orders. He launched a surprise attack on a Terran convoy in the Western Valley. His units used stealth, drones and local terrain. They expected to weaken Earth's grip. Instead, they triggered something worse. Within 4 minutes, a Terran warship broke through the clouds. It didn't fire on buildings. It didn't strike the colony. It erased the valley. A beam of white light fell from the sky and wiped the landscape clean. No fire. No sound. Just sudden, cold removal. Nothing was left. Not even Commander Tarn watched from the control tower. His hands trembled. They didn't kill him, he whispered. They unmade him. The governor stood still. This is what they call restraint. That night, another message was sent. All public screens lit up. The Terran commander stood in front of his flag, black and silver, with the outline of Earth behind stars. To those who resist, this was your warning. There will not be a second. Your colony is no longer yours. You are under Terran command. We do not conquer for power. We respond to calls. And your call was heard. In the governor's chamber, silence fell again. Tarn spoke, voice low. I think they were waiting for a reason to come back. Rill nodded slowly. And now that they're here, they're never leaving. In the lower city, a young girl named Mara walked past human soldiers. She was just 13, but carried food for her family. The soldiers didn't look at her. They didn't speak. They just stood there, giants in armor, watching, waiting, when she passed. One of them handed her a ration pack. Inside, she found a chip. She gave it to her father. He played it. It said, "You are now part of something greater. Earth remembers. Earth protects. Earth owns." In the distance, human towers blinked in rhythm. The colony's heart no longer beat in alien hands. It belonged to Earth. And the war, the one no one asked for, had already been won, without a single word. The planet was quiet now. Not the quiet of peace, not the quiet of control. From orbit, the Terran fleet hovered in perfect formation. Their ships didn't move. They didn't need. They had already won. Down below, Gorlan 3 no longer looked like itself. Its skies had been rewritten with orbital nets and defense grids. Its ground had been marked with Earth seal-on gates, towers, and even public halls. The alien colony was gone. In its place stood Terran Sector 9. Governor Rill stood at his office window. But the view outside had changed. Where once children played and workers moved freely, now stood walls, scan towers, and Terran patrols walking like they were home. Behind him, Tarn stood silently. He hadn't left the tower in days. "Do you still think it was just a mistake?" Rill asked softly. Tarn swallowed. "I don't know anymore." Rill nodded. "Maybe that's the cruel part," he said. "Maybe it was a mistake." And they came anyway. On the outer edges of the city, banners were raised. Not alien colors, Terran ones. A voice echoed through loudspeakers across every district. As of now, Gorlan 3 is a registered Terran territory. All citizens will receive reclassification and protection under Terran planetary law. Resistance is no longer permitted. You are Earth's people now. Some cried, some obeyed. Most just stood still, lost between what was and what now is. Later that day, in the center of the city, a formal declaration was held. The Terran commander stepped up onto a raised platform. He was flanked by 2 massive guards, both silent as stone. Cameras floated around him. The whole planet was watching. He didn't shout. He didn't smile. He simply said, "You called. You may not remember how. You may not understand why. But the signal was clear, ancient, and binding. When Earth hears such a call, it does not send diplomats. It sends guardians. It sends ships. It sends fire." He paused, then continued. "You are not prisoners. You are not slaves. You are now under Earth's shield. You belong to us." and Earth does not let go. Far above the platform, a massive Terran flag unfolded from a hovering drone ship. Its symbol was burned into the sky, a dark Earth wrapped in flames, surrounded by the words, "Terra responded, Earth answers." In a dark alley, a child whispered to his mother, "Will they leave someday?" She looked down at him, held him close, and didn't answer, because she knew the truth, they wouldn't. Earth had not come as a guest. Earth had come to stay. Inside, a quiet chamber, Tarn sat with a datapad. He replayed the original signal. Just once. It was only 8 seconds. Long. 8 seconds. That's all it took to change a world. That signal had traveled across forgotten networks, waking something old, and buried something that had been waiting. He looked out the window, where Terran towers now kissed the clouds. "I didn't know," he whispered, but knowledge didn't matter anymore. A call had been made. The answer had arrived. The last message, broadcasted planet-wide, said only one thing: "You are under Earth now. Welcome home." And with that, Gorlan 3, once free, once forgotten, became a new piece of the Deathworld Empire. Asterisk.